Welcome back. We are in Nelson on the eastern bay of the Tasman for the first game of the day between Australia and Russia. And Robbie Deans will be hoping that his side can get a bonus point win to seal qualification from Pool C. And more importantly, his injury-ravaged squad can emerge from the game with a clean bit of health ahead of the knockout stages. It's a difficult way to go in, isn't it, to a match? You know, try and keep yourself fit, boys, but win at the same time. You know.
There's also, you know, I think it's a matter you can't sort of think, I'll hold myself back a little bit because I may get injured. You've got to go in there and play as tough as you can. And you know, there's a few guys that are coming back into this team. David Pocock, for one, who's a really important cog, so he'll be trying to get some game time, and it'll be good to see him. Scott Higginbotham, his back row partner. It's his first start this World Cup. Had a great year. So all these guys, they're going to go out and play and really sort of put a marker down going forward. But, you know, that in the back of your mind, there's that injury doubt.
Danny, you've terrorised and you've been terrorised by many number sevens. How about Pocock? How good is this guy?
Oh, he's up there with the best in the world, I think. You know, with Richie McCaw, I think they're the two standout sevens at the moment. You know, he's one of those players who, once again, gets away with everything. And you don't know how, but that's what the best sevens do. You know, he steals ball, he carries ball, he scores tries, and more importantly, you know, he really gets the side going. I think he's a great team player. He seems like a well-liked player in the squad, and you know, he's brilliant.
OK, well, the sound of the Bukaya is our cue to stop chatting, and for Alan Quinlan and Simon Ward to start talking. Over to you, boys.
Thank you, Craig. Well, as we start a new month, so we finish the pool stages, and this, of course, is the last of those 5 pool games rescheduled from Christchurch, the third and final match to be played here. Half a dozen changes for the Russians. Skipper Korshunov has recovered from his leg injury to lead. Yuri Kushnerev gets the nod over Rashkov for the number 10 shirt. Adam Burns up against familiar faces and accents this afternoon. It's been a real mix and match selection from Robbie Deans today with the fallout from the USA match. He's forced to look for the Jonah factor out wide with number 8 Radiki Samo repositioned. Burgess and Barnes joining him for their first starts in the back line, and it's a new back row of Higginbotham, Pocock and McCullman. For the final match to be played here at Trafalgar Park, there's the bench, all 3 hookers and scrum halves being utilised today for the Australians, so watch out for a slightly different looking team later on in the game. The previous 2 games here at Trafalgar Park have averaged over 50 points a game. No reason to think really that this will buck the trend, though how it's divvied out, well, we'll wait and see.
Please be upstanding
Before
for
we
the
get on
national
with
anthems
the
of
rugby
Russia
action,
and Australia.
let's
Recorded by
be
the New
silent
Zealand
for
Symphony
the
Orchestra
national
and
anthems
performed
of
today by
Australia
the New Zealand
and
Choral
Russia.
Federation Anthem Choir.
So join us after the break for Russia's final game in the Rugby World Cup 2011. So Australia sensing the push towards the imminent challenge of the quarterfinals. Russia bidding farewell to their first top draw rugby tournament. It was Hug an Aussie Day on Wednesday. Will there be a bear hug from the Russians for the green and golds before they exit this country? Bryce Lawrence, the Kiwi, on the whistle. And already, well, schoolboy error really. Enthusiasm or over-enthusiasm from the Russians, immediately giving the Australians a chance to restart this match.
Yeah, they didn't want to start like that, Simon. You can see clearly they're all ahead of the kicker, Kushner off, and disappointing start for him, and gives an Australia a chance to work off the first scrum here.
Simplakevich on that left wing looking somewhat embarrassed, it has to be said. Quite a disparity in the pack sizes, 27 kilos between those two packs of 8. It has been a problem for the Russians through the course of this tournament. There's Brachov back in the starting lineup, the oldest man in this tournament at 38, but 38 years young, wearing 7 this afternoon. He's worn 6 and 8 so far. There's James O'Connor, a man who can also play in many different positions, dumped to the floor by Simplakevich, but Burgess keeping his team moving as Australia look to get the cogs linked up and get some momentum in these early phases. Higginbottom, what a big game it is for the Australian number 6, and that's not the start he wanted. They, of course, with no victories under their belt, have taken a lot from the experience and now looking to show that their learning curve, albeit steep, has been adhered to. Stephen Moore, to Nathan Sharp. Sharp in his 98th cap this afternoon. Berwick Barnes offloads to Higginbottom. Good to see Berwick Barnes starting again. Really did make a difference the other day against the USA. A little bit of solidarity perhaps alongside Quade Cooper.
Yeah, it's a penalty there for offside again, and the Russians have struggled in their previous games against Ireland and Italy with a lot of penalties. But I think the referee, the linesman, is in talking to Bryce Lawrence.
And we've got 2 Irish assistant referees. There's George Clancy. You can see he was on the whistle here on Tuesday night. On the far side, Simon McDowell listening in. And I think it's going to be the Russian skipper, Korshunov, yes indeed, being called forward, along with his interpreter, Alexander Voitov, the second row.
It's just a warning there for Kushnerov. But I think actually an interesting thing there is Higginbottom made the carry. I think he lost the ball in contact, and it was you know, the penalty came from that ruck. It should have been a scrum to the Russians, in my opinion. See Higginbottom carrying here. He's quite high, and Popov is trying to rip the ball. We don't see it, but I think he lost the ball in contact. Quite fortunate there.
You can just see Korshunov giving a bit of a rib tickler, a nudge in the ribs for Quade Cooper. And the Australian line out. Slow to settle itself in. There is Higginbottom, another man from the Queensland Reds, of course, and there's many of them in this Australian lineup.
He had a great season with the Reds.
Of course, up against an ex-Red in Adam Burns, the Russian number 5. Look out for him, and in particular, Australia's number 1, James Slipper. A few years back, they had a spat on the training field, which went on a bit. Interesting to see whether it resurfaces here this afternoon. Burns has been out with some of the Aussie boys for coffee yesterday in town. Just renewing acquaintances. Of course, he plays for Melbourne Rebels now. There is James Slipper.
And that's a big boost for Russia there to get a penalty off the first scrum. That will certainly do their confidence no harm. They have struggled in the set piece in this tournament, and that will do their confidence. You see it here. Slipper just goes straight to ground, and it is a penalty. It's a clear penalty.
Well, they've got high hopes for young James Slipper, just 22 years of age. earned his first cap a month after his Reds debut in the Super 14, as it was then. Good step back into midfield, and this is why they've picked Kushnerov at 10. More of a running game from the Russian fly-half, and they hope to spark something. Quade Cooper, the second bite, slaps it back to Stephen Moore. Good covering work from the Aussie hooker, but he's back on his own 22 now. Burgess feeds Cooper, and Cooper slams it upfield. Mr. Ushko. Just having a look. Australian line setting itself on the 10-metre line.
Hold here.
And Mishkin running across field, looking for somebody to cut the angle really, and didn't really threaten the Australian defence. And kick right down the field from Kushnerov. He's not going to get any geographical advantage, so they'll come back for the scrum put in to Australia.
Yeah, poor kick there from Kushnerov, and Russia there showing some promise there with some good rucks, some good carries. Greshev makes a good carry, big hit from Pocock, and it's interesting to see him back today. It's his first game in a couple of weeks. Pocock, we see here Quade Cooper, and good cover from Stephen Moore, but he's a player I like, Cooper. He's continually getting tested by opposition teams, and he seems to love the challenge.
Quade Cooper really is rugby marmite, isn't he? He's like the Mercuro, Carlos Spencer, David Campese, I suppose, as well. He tends to polarise opinion, but really don't believe everything you read in the press, because the Kiwis have really taken to him over here. They've been, once they've been out of Auckland, I was talking to Cooper yesterday, and he's really had a good time, a good experience. They've had a very warm reception. And certainly he's been enjoying his rugby. Right, Radike Samo, his first stretch of the legs. Hasn't played on the wing since 1999, he told me, for Canberra. The Australian boys have been calling him Marika after Marika Vunabaka, the big winger, Fijian winger. Out the ball goes, stepping inside Berrick Barnes, a wide open barn door for Berrick Barnes, and very, very simple execution from the Waratahs centre.
It's a lovely step from Berrick Barnes, and a really great individual try from him. Big gap in the Russian defence there. Simple stuff. We see the big man Samo going down the wing, making his first charge here. Pretty determined. And the offload to Burgess. It's just simple play, pass from Pocock, and a great step. Kushnerov, very, very poor in defence there. Speaking to some people during the week about the Russian number 10, he's certainly a talented player, but question marks about his defence, and he showed that there. But great step from Berrick Barnes.
James O'Connor going to start off with kicking duties today. It was shared between Curtly Beale and Quade Cooper in the last match against the Eagles. But O'Connor back in the lineup this afternoon. Early charge. Hitting Cooper off, hitting O'Connor off his preparation, but the ball floating past that right-hand upright. Well, we saw the kicking percentage there, and it has been the talk of a lot of the papers as to why the percentages are so low.
And it's probably the reason why Ireland have gone for Rowan O'Gara in tomorrow's game against Italy. He's had 10 from 12, but there's been, you know, a lot of bad kicking in the tournament so far, and it could be a problem for Australia later on in the tournament.
Certainly one of the impacts that Berrick Barnes had on that match in Wellington was his kicking. 4 conversions he slotted. Let's see whether he's going to get a chance to show what he can do off the tee. Luke Burgess showing what he can do. Burgess trying to get round his man, offloads to Cooper. This is where the Australians love playing their rugby. Loose, improvised stuff. Wonderful to see. The little kick from Barnes. Mitchell's there with nobody in front of him. Ostroshko can't get back in time. And Drew Mitchell slides over for the second try. Well, the arch try predator that is Drew Mitchell knew what was on. The little ball dinked over the top, and nobody was going to stop that man.
It all started with a great break from Luke Burgess, supported by, Quaid Cooper. And we see it here. He's a great runner with the ball in his hand and looks easy. Great support from Quaid Cooper. Offload to Higginbottom, and really, really clever kick and from Berwick Barnes here, and no full back at home. Not sure where Artemiev was, but it's pretty easy for Drew Mitchell.
Well, Mitchell loves scoring tries. That was his 29th in the green and gold jersey. And if you wind your mind back to 2007, well, he was the second highest try scorer then. 2 tries against Japan and Canada, and the hat-trick against Fiji, put him just behind Brian Habana. Already a try against the Eagles, and now a try against the Bears.
And he's done remarkably well to come back from a serious leg injury to make it to this World Cup. Unbelievable recovery, and he's very, very important to the Australian team.
See whether James O'Connor can settle himself and learn the lessons of that first kick. Sweet strike and the sweet 2 points. Despite the Russians trying to put him off, James O'Connor finds his range and finds his radar. Well, O'Connor, just 21 years of age. He's going to be a teammate of Adam Burns next season with Melbourne Rebels, having signed from Western Force. Mitchell setting the focus for his pack. Immediately in the midfield, there's Kepu onto his front row teammate. Just 11 minutes gone, and Australia already recording over a point a minute. Cooper out to O'Connor. Mitchell opting to cut back inside. There's Adam Ashley Cooper wearing 13 this afternoon. The cross kick intended for Radiki Samo, didn't even have to leap for that one. Looking for the offload, one-handed. There's Higginbottom in support. Again, the one-hand offload. Nathan Sharp. Oh, this is rugby poetry. Cooper onto McCalman. He didn't really need to pass, but Australian rugby at its very best, no question.
That is unbelievable, and they look so confident in their play. It's unbelievable play. Great crossfield kick to Samo, and he's so strong. Holds the ball up, gives a great inside pass, and unbelievable from Cooper there. He was over the line and he gives the pass. We see it here to Samo. Kushnerov fends him off very easily, and so strong. Back to McCallum or Higginbottom, and then great support from Quaid Cooper. Unbelievably that he gives the pass. He could have scored a try himself.
Well, it was McCalman's first ever try, and I suspect the generosity of Cooper will be appreciated by the number 8. It really was superb, synchronised rugby.
It's looking pretty ominous so early in the game for Russia. I think it could be a long afternoon for them.
O'Connor with a simple kick. A huge Australian following. You can see the gold shirts in the tacked-out house. It is a sellout here. Over 17,000 in attendance. But Russia, well, shell-shocked. Looks like the Australian coaching committee is a bit shell-shocked. I'm sure they can't smile too early. This is Williams, Nusafor and Deans just happy with their lot, but quietly so, smiling on the inside.
Stay up, Sivan!
Again, forwards waiting out wide. It's deja vu for the Russians. There's Kepu, born in Sydney but brought up in New Zealand, played through the New Zealand age groups. before returning to the country of his birth. Cooper out to Ashley Cooper. Those two, the only two of this Australian team that have played every single minute of this Rugby World Cup tournament. Cooper, Coleman, everybody wanting to get their hands on the ball. O'Connor striding up to the 22, looking for his winger. Well, let's face it, you can't miss him, but unfortunately the pass didn't find the direction.
Great play again from Australia. O'Connor, unbelievable pace. See Drew Mitchell here, he rips the ball off, and he looks really sharp today, and they're just doing the simple things so well. See the ball out the back there to Berwick Barnes, and O'Connor's in pace away. Simplakevich does very well there to get a hand between the pass and Samo, or else it was another try. Looks pretty easy for Australia.
Samo, the first player to start as a forward and a back in the same Rugby World Cup. To the extent that yesterday when they were warming up, he actually warmed up with the midfield trio of the back rows and the halfbacks rather than the back three. He had to be reminded where he was playing. David Pocock barges one off, and Pocock strolls over for the bonus point try. Well, it is a flow turning into a tidal wave here already, and we're only midway through the first half.
It's just too easy. Pocock is very strong on his feet, does really well, but very, very soft defence. Peel around the back of the line-out, and very, very soft. You see it here. Horwell wins it and slipper around the back. It's just a simple pass to the 7, and again, very, very soft tackling from Kushnerov.
Well, that bonus point try really ensures Australia's place in the quarterfinals. No great surprise there. Where they're going to be positioned, well, that will of course depend on the outcome from Dunedin tomorrow evening.
Unless the Russians sort out their defence pretty soon, this is going to be a rout. They can't be falling off simple tackles like that. Kingsley Jones will be very, very disappointed. There's been a lot of missed tackles so far in this game. Credit the Australians, they're playing the game with at pace, doing the simple things well, stretching the Russians over and back, and just getting the mismatches out wide. And again, we see the determination here, but it's simple stuff, and he'll not get an easier try than that.
Well, Pocock really known for his work around the contact area. Really is an uber jackal in that sense, but they're showing what he can do on the open ranges. And Russia really have to sort themselves out, and that's not the restart that they would have wanted, because immediately it passes the ball back to their opposition. And Australia have had a really easy, well, in their words, easy few days out of Hammer Springs, getting some downtime. First real downtime they've had since the Super Rugby final. They've had the partners and wives out there, which has allowed them to relax, and certainly when we've seen them in town through the course of yesterday and the day before, they appeared very relaxed, very at ease.
Absolutely, they look very relaxed, very happy in themselves after I suppose the disappointment of the Irish game. They still they're in this tournament, and you know, they have to go the harder route, but certainly there'll still be a force.
Cooper and O'Connor once again combining. This time the tackle does get in. But again, Burgess always looking there around the fringe, is aware that there's a frailty there. And the Australians will be ruthless in exposing any defensive frailty. Mitchell cuts back on the bouncing ball. Barnes stepping in at first receiver, and that's the flexibility, of course, that Berwick Barnes brings. How many times he's played in that role. In and out, and the ball's still there. As the flow from Australia continues, this time it's Kepu and Stephen Moore who take them up into the opposition 22. And Ashley Cooper can't find a way through there. The Russians appear shell-shocked at the moment, but they've got to come to their senses fairly quickly. Cooper out to Barnes. Oh, a sense of a forward pass there, I think. Just a little bit too much ambition from the skipper, and James Horwell realises it.
And that's the challenge now for the Australians, that they don't get too loose and throw those 50-50 passes, but it looks so easy. They make ground every time. Simple continuity, moving the Russians over and back and just making big yards every time.
Just here, please, Sid. On this side of the map. Thanks, mate.
Well, we've talked about the Australian injury crisis.
Nice and patient.
Bibiani, I'm told, will be fit for the quarterfinals. Actually not here today. He's gone back to be best man at his brother's wedding in Australia. Rob Horn, well, his fractured cheekbone is unlikely to allow him back before the semi-finals. But there's better news on the likes of Anthony Fainga and Curtly Beale, Pat McCabe. The Australian management are hoping, and I stress that word, hoping, that they will be fit for next week. Of course, Michael Palo has gone home. We've not been told if they're going to replace him in the squad.
Lock the bind up. Lock it up. Crouch. Touch. Pause. Engage.
At the end of the first quarter of this first half, and Australia dominating on the pitch and on the scoreboard.
Hold what? Hold.
Clearance kick is not going to find touch. There's Craig Cooper in his defensive position at fullback. Seen it many times before, of course, been utilised by different teams, not just Australia. Higginbottom. Mention how big a game it is for him. Wanting to put some pressure on Rocky Elsom, who's on the bench this afternoon.
Here it comes.
Cooper changing the line, kicking off his instep, forcing Ostarushko back. And Ostarushko had all sorts of defensive problems here against the Italians.
You got the front, George, please.
Craig Cooper turning up the stress level on the Russian right winger.
It's better defence. The Russians seem to have their line intact there from the kick. Drew Mitchell didn't really have any gaps in the line. They need to keep doing that, hold their line and force Quade Cooper into a kick.
I say right winger, of course Ostarushko wearing 11, and it's interesting they've moved Simplakevich onto the other wing to try and hold Radiki Samo. Simplakevich 6'4", so a similar stature.
He still has a big job on his hands holding that guy.
It wasn't out yesterday at the press conference when Ostarushko said he was ready to eat Samo. I think there was a little lost in translation there somewhere. Stephen Moore bubbles his way over the game line once again. Pocock quick to swing the ball away. The advantage again going for Australia. They're not going to stop now. Adam Ashley Cooper spots the hole and looked like he was going to roll over there. The follow-up is there from the skipper, James Horwell. Russians desperate to try and hold the fort here, but it's not going to happen. It's going to be David Pocock going in for his second try, Australia's fifth. And there is nothing, but nothing that Russia can do to stop Australia this afternoon.
Yeah, they just can't seem to hold out the tide of Australians. Didn't look like there was anything on, but a great step from Ashley Cooper and another easy try on the gain line for Pocock. We see the step here, great left-footed step, handoff for Prishapenko, and Jan Yushkin again, great cover tackle. He's been really great for the Russians in this tournament, and he powers his way over Pocock.
Well, David Pocock, born of course in Zimbabwe, but such an important part of this Australian lineup. They really did miss him against the Irish. He was supposedly rested or allowed to take the game off against the Eagles. But now back in the shirt, back in the team, and back in full force in action.
He's very important to them, and as is Stephen Moore. I think those two guys were a big loss against the Irish. They're very important for this Australian team, and standing beside Pocock yesterday, I was pretty amazed at how strong and how powerful he is.
My kids would call him Hench.
He's like a bodybuilder, to be honest, and he's such a wonderful player. He's very, very important to. They'll be pretty pleased to have him back out onto the field, and 2 tries is not a bad return for your first game in 3 or 4 weeks. So far.
He may only be 5'11" in height. He's looked like 5'11" in width as well, and he's got the power to match. You saw him driving through the tackles. And there is Kingsley Jones, Darren Morris, and Nikolai Nerush Well, Neres said this week it was a historic day. Never have we played such a team at such a level. Well, those words are coming back to haunt him, because this level that Australia have found in the first 24 minutes has exposed the Bears. Thrown out to Achamyev, wearing fullback shirt again this afternoon. Eric Barnes with plenty of time. Drew Mitchell sends it back from whence it came. The Russians trying to run their way back into opposition territory. We've rarely seen the Russians yet with hands on ball in any meaningful exercise of attack. And I think there's a turnover there, is there? No, Yanyushkin managing to ferret his way down to the bottom of that ruck.
They've just had no possession, Russia.
Now they've got to try and get some continuity, try and get some phases together, stitch and attack together. Tarkov has been penalised for holding.
And it's Pocock again. That's what he does best. Prishapenko making a carry there, and once he locks on that ball, Pocock, he's so hard to remove, and that's his first turnover of the game. He hasn't had to make any because it's been all Australian possession.
Well, the contact area has been so open relatively to some of the other games that David Pocock will have played. He really hasn't had to worry too much about the speed of the recycling. Ross Lawrence, of course, was on the whistle for that game with the Irish at Eden Park. So the Australians should have no surprises from behind the whistle.
White step. Keep coming.
Adam Burns was so looking forward to this game. What a 12 months it's been for him. Made his debut for the Melbourne Rebels. Went to the royal wedding in Monaco and has made his debut for Russia.
Still playing the ball. Ask you to leave it.
Yeah, the last line out there for Nathan Sharp went straight through his hands, and Higginbottom straight off his feet there for a penalty. You have to support your own weight in the breakdown situation. You see it here, Higginbottom. He actually gets driven in by Nathan Sharp, driving onto the ground, and it's a clear penalty.
Mentioned Burns, of course, there he is. He's going to find himself as a foreign player for Melbourne next season, although the Melbourne Rebels, they've got a special dispensation as they're a new franchise that they can get 10 foreigners in, so it shouldn't limit his potential availability for the first team, but it will be a different scenario. Nathan Sharp driving up towards halfway. Burgess spotted the opportunity. Pass from Cooper, I think, has floated forward in any case.
Passes forward by 10.
But Australia trying to improvise attacks already. Seeing what was on, Burgess aware of the gap that was potentially down the left flank.
Yeah, it's a complete change of direction here, and you can see the pass is clearly forward. And just going back to the line-out, another lost line-out for Russia. Their scrum has been dodgy in the World Cup, and I suppose they are a Tier 2 nation, so we can't be too hard on them, but it's cost them dearly because they have some good individual players, good ball carriers, but the return and line-out and scrum has been poor.
Certainly that front row has been a problem, and you can see there not enough bulk there, and the Russians talking about trying to mine for forwards in the wrestling communities in Dagestan. Similar bulk, we're told, to the Georgians, which everybody, you know, if we're talking stereotypes, everybody thinks Russians big, heavy men, but they're not in the same way that the Georgians are. Well, they have got quick feet, and there's the break through the ranks by Cousin. And the first chance for Russia to get into the opposition 22. It's taken the best part of half an hour to do it. Can they maximise their opportunities? Scored tries good tries against Italy and against the Irish. Showing that they can mix it in attack. It's been defence that let them down. And the crowd beginning to get behind them. Good 5,000 people have come over from Blenheim, where their first training camp was, about 90 minutes drive away. So fair support in the crowd. Dare I say there may be a few Kiwis shouting for them? Well, all supporting the underdog, I guess. Here's the flags.
Here the crowd get behind the Russians there. Everyone's really pleased to see them making a few surges there. Some great carries there. And good scrum here. Their scrum has vastly improved in the Irish game, and certainly tonight they've got a platform to work off. You see here the switch play from Kudzin. Great break from him.
And the crowd loving the ambition of the Russians. Well, 3 points really is of no value to them at all, especially when talking figures. Their kicking ratio's only been 40% through their first 3 games.
Wouldn't the crowd love to see him going over for a try?
Well, only one team has done it against Australia so far in this tournament. They are renowned for their defensive resilience. This Russian side have pushed the barriers, and now they're going to look to make something out of Fatakov. They've got the advantage from the referee. Pick and drive with Grachov. Not going in a straight line. The Australians counter up, but the referee brings it back.
Good execution in the line out there, but clearly taken out in the air, and Breece Lawrence had no hesitation to sit. Yeah, you can hear Breece Lawrence, number 4, James Horwell, taking the jumper out early, and disappointing because the Russians wanted to try and get that maul going, see if they can squeeze themselves over the line. We see it here, good execution, clearly taken out by James Horwell. You can see him on the ground there in the scrum cap, and it's pretty dangerous. You can't take a player in a line-out when they're in the air.
And here we go, old school free kick.
Waiting.
He's come, I was going to say Kempesi Mafu, that's his brother actually that's come on temporarily, Salesi Mafu. But here we go, the call is old school, you'll see why. All those memories of school fields running through everybody's minds. That was the major strike move of most school 15s. Ball still there for the Russians. Yanyushkin, the first man to score a try for Russia in the World Cup. Unable to barrel his way over there. Well, the referee's whistle had already gone.
I think he's blown it too soon. Great little snipe again from Yanyushkin. He's been so bright in this World Cup. A real find for the Russians. You have to feel for him with the set piece the way it's gone, but a great little player.
That's a time when being the smallest player in the World Cup actually benefits you, because he's going around by everybody's ankles, as we see. That's Kepu just actually coming off the pitch, and it doesn't look like it's a good sign for the Australians. Doesn't seem to be any blood injury there. An early substitution, or was it pre-planned? We should find out later on. Right now, though, Salesi Mafu, who's having to scrum down in his position with the pressure on from the Russians for the first time. Picks up. Again, they look for the runners. It's Artemyev coming in on the blind. Really got the bulk of somebody like Simplakevich, and the ball has been turned over consequently. Luke Burgess trying to run his way out of the 22. Burgess looking for support. He's going to have to look inside, but just losing the ball as he weighed up his options. And Ostrusko steps inside one. Ostrusko is going to go over for his second try of the World Cup, and it's Russia's first try. And the celebrations in the stands show the absolute delirium that the Russian supporters feel. It really is a huge feather in the cap of the Russian team to score tries. They know they won't get the results, but they have scored a try against one of the meanest defences in this competition. Only the USA have managed it before. And what a moment for Russian rugby.
It's a magnificent try for Ostrushko. I think even the Australian crowd here are cheering Ostrushko. You see a great break out of here. Burgess looks so dangerous with ball in hand. Scramble tackle from the Russians, and Ostrushko picks it up here, and he's a clear breakthrough. Great step from Nathan Sharp, and what a magnificent try for Russia. I think everyone here in the stadium is absolutely delighted. Great to see him score, because they've been under the pump for the whole match so far, and this will give them a magnificent lift.
Well, you can see what it means to the Russian coaching team. Kingsley Jones, muted applause, because he knows what the scoreboard is, but as I say, they are so determined to score the tries. The tries mean everything to this Russian side. Kushnerov had a little bit of icing on that cake, not swinging it back enough. Well, they're on the board before half-time. Is it a turning point?
I'm not sure it's a turning point, but see it here again. It's and they're both their wingers, Ostrushko and Matveyev have been, Simplikaevich have been fantastic. They've been really powerful. Both of them played really well against Ireland.
He goes loose, but it's a Russian hand that picks it up. It is Kavitsky. This pass trying to get Ostrushko again. Matching him up with Horwell. Good work from James Slipper coming across to close the door. And Horwell wanted to take it quickly, but not on the mark, says the referee.
He's not on the mark there for the quick throw, but see the confidence that's after bringing to the Russians. They immediately trying to move the ball across the field. They've nothing to lose here, so I think they should throw the ball around as much as they can.
Kushnerov was likened to a Charlie Hodgson type fly half yesterday when we asked for the difference between him and Rashkov, who's been the previous incumbent. Great distributor, good run-up, not known for his powerful defence. Certainly gives the Russians a lot more attacking options. Beautiful hands from Drew Mitchell, and Pocock thinking about a hat-trick, offloads, and Stephen Moore is going to bundle his way over for the 6th try. A happy half dozen for the green and golds, set up by that man David Pocock and finished off by his hooker. Well, that's the response from the Australians.
And it's an immediate response from the Australians. I think, again, simple stuff, hard lines, soft tackles, I suppose, from the Russians, and great break again from Pocock. We see it here, Quade Cooper, Drew Mitchell back inside. He's running a great line. It looks like he's smothered up, but great offload there, and Stephen Moore can't be stopped from there.
Well, beautiful handling it was from Drew Mitchell that opened the gap up. Almost sleight of hand, a blind little inside pop. Very little you can do to stop that. Certainly, when this Australian backline are flowing like they have been in this first half, they are one of the most impressive backlines in world rugby.
Absolutely, they have danger everywhere. I think the most impressive thing for me there is being a forward is the patience shown by Pocock, that he didn't throw the silly offload too early. He looked around, looked for his support, and just waited that extra second, and there was Stephen Moore on the inside, and that's really intelligent play. The danger there is that you give the early pass and maybe have a turnover, so Pocock has looked really sharp here.
But the great thing is that they're prepared to take the risk, and that's why the Australians are loved in world rugby, because they take the risks. They make the rugby happen.
Well, when they're on fire, they can beat the best in the world, and they're fantastic individual players. And unfortunately for Russia, they found an Australian team in high spirits tonight.
Certainly been refinding their feet since that loss to Ireland.
Yeah.
Certainly seem to have re-sparked their engine. Here's the Russian bench, not looking totally happy.
That can happen, Simon. I think sometimes a loss can reinvigorate you, get you back on track, and obviously they're going to go through the hard side of the quarterfinals. They're going to probably meet South Africa in the quarterfinals, and but they know themselves. They can beat anyone on their day.
Line out's over. Skip back.
Sharp pulling himself out to offer his First up, Pod. Until everybody's in position. Samo coming off his wing. Thrust in midfield, off the shoulder. No, it's going out to David Pocock. Cooper again, the linchpin out to Adam Ashley Cooper. Mitchell wrapped up and Vachov, but still the Australians come towards this Russian line. Seen Pocock in a more creative mood so far in this game. Burgess has had a couple of good snipes, offloads, and the front row union thinking about getting another try in their locker. Cooper sends it through. Adam Ashley Cooper up quickly to pick up the extras, and there is another try for the Australians. And the Australians in this crowd loving what they've been seeing in these first 39 minutes.
Piece of brilliance again from Quade Cooper, just to put the little dink in there for Adam Ashley Cooper. Another lovely try, but great break again here from Burgess again. He looks so strong around the fringes. See the kick through there, and
the balance that Cooper had to be able to do that. He was being tackled at the same time. Look there, as he's spinning round, able to put the ball on his foot and just thread it through, and the weight of the kick absolutely spot on.
Absolutely, and you know, we know his skill set and he's what kind of a player he is. I think he's on the front foot all the time here, so it's easy to do those things, little things like that come off, and he's shown his talent. He's an unbelievable player going forward, and I think his skill set is phenomenal, but it's just continuous pressure from Australia. Pocock, as you say, probably a bit different we're seeing from tonight. He's making those hard carries off Cooper up the middle of the park all the time, and they're just making a lot of ground with the hard yards.
The Russians have got used to O'Connor's kicking style now, and O'Connor has got used to the angles as well. That's 6 from 7 for the young Australian fullback, and that is going to be, I think, the final play of this first half. We've had a real try-fest in the first 40 minutes. No surprise, it's all going Australia's way, but Russia at least have got themselves on the scoreboard. Half-time, it's Australia leading 47 points to 5.